Hi, this is Kimberly Reuter, business advisor and supply chain expert, and welcome to my podcast, The Morning Mood. This is a pretty special episode. Believe it or not, this is episode 50. And last time I spoke to you about episodes was episode 10, which was the first milestone that we reached with the podcast. Because 10 is generally where all podcasts end. Podcasters get to 8 or 9 and they kind of jump out or they don't make it, they lose interest, etc. So 10 was the first milestone that I hit 10. Part of that success of hitting 10 was keeping things really, really simple. Part of the success of hitting 50 is keeping things really, really, really simple. And I reiterate again, like there's no hair, no makeup. I don't prepare for these podcasts in that sense. My focus is on the content, and I spend a lot of time thinking about content. And I think that's what really matters. And it turns out that other people kind of agree because the audience is growing, the following is growing, people are responding to the podcast. And the only way I was able to do this was by keeping it simple. So simple. So absolutely simple. No makeup, no script, just a framework. And that's what I wanted this podcast to be. That's what I wanted it to reflect. This all came out of that just do it. You got to just do it. And this almost like it was unacceptable for me not to do a podcast. I had tried it 4 or 5 times and it was just time. And the reasons that it hadn't been successful previously was because I overcomplicated it. Coffee break. Hold on. So when I came at it this time with the podcast, I said 20 minutes, 5 days a week. I got a great production team in India. AJ, love you, babe. And I did it. And there's been bumps along the road. So, I have talked to you about why I've done this podcast, the why. And, I think Tiana, I've been interviewing with Tiana. If you're listening, we've had a few episodes with Tiana now. She touched on it like you're not alone. And I think a lot of times in my career, in my growth, in my professional life, and probably my personal life too, I felt very alone. And it wasn't, and I don't want to say people are like, oh, well, that's because being the only woman in an executive position in Amazon ops, like that must have been very lonely. And that wasn't the lonely part. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you about that. I did not I don't remember who gender at Amazon, I don't remember that ever being an issue. Maybe it was and I was oblivious to it, and I decide, whatever, I didn't clock it, that's fine. But I didn't see that at Amazon. But where I felt very alone was that I couldn't find someone who spoke my language, who had advice for a young woman coming up in the career world or just a young leader in general, though there were some specific women things I needed to address. Most of those revolved around like stop saying I'm sorry because I'm not fucking sorry. Um, but I felt very alone and I didn't feel like I had a place to have guidance. I have a coach, Alicia, who's going to be on with us. She was amazing. And I relied very heavily on her. And, I wish I had had more of a community of people around me to help me understand how to navigate this world. And so that's kind of my why for the podcast. The why for the unfiltered rawness, no makeup, cussing, we're not editing a lot, take it or leave it attitude about the podcast is just, again, that someone who spoke my language, someone who could lay it out and be raw and go for the jugular and just not filter. We spend so much time climbing through people's filters And so that is why the format is the way that it is. So the content is really out of I felt very alone, and through my life I've learned a ton and I have a ton of experience, and I wanted to share that with the world in case anybody can benefit from that. The format is it's approachable. I'm not doing fucking makeup at 7 o'clock in the morning to do a 20-minute podcast. That's just the end of it. And if I did that, it takes more time for me to actually get ready to record the podcast. And you probably really don't even know the difference. And hopefully, you're doing something else while you're listening to this. You're driving your car, you're not actually looking at me. I wanted to focus on the thing that matters the most. And that was helping and providing useful, valuable, accessible content. That's how we got here. That's my why. So, and just to remind everyone here a little bit about who I am, because I've been encouraged. People have been encouraging me to kind of like be, people don't always start at one. Make sure you every now and then remind them who you are. So, I talk about all this experience that I want to share with everyone and drop for people to pick up. And so here's my background. I started my career as a broker freight forwarder on the East Coast. I've been able to reconnect with a lot of those people. David Rish and I reconnected. We were together at Rogers and Brown way back when I was an itty bitty. That's what I call little leaders, little itty bitties, our young bloods, because you are truly have young energy and welcome to the tribe. So back when I was an itty bitty, David and I worked together. I started in Rogers and Brown, a broker on the East. Actually, started at T. Parker Host as a telex operator before that. Believe it or not, telex operator to podcaster, media personality, whatever I am now. I have no idea. Speaking to a mic. And so I started as an itty bitty, and I grew, and I broke brokering and freight forwarding was not an industry I thought I would get into. I kind of fell into it. I worked in that industry for close to 15 years. And then I made a jump into tech, into operations supply chain technology, working for a startup in Reston, actually Dulles, the Reston corridor, left over from the original dot-com boom that happened outside of DC. And I worked for a couple years, developing software, and that was my first foray into technology and tying together operations and technology. That became my gift, or it has always been my gift, is translation. My gift is translation. I'm able to translate complex things into simple things, and I'm able to translate business into technology very easily. So that's where I learned about technology. And from there, I went to Amazon, where I spent 7 years at Amazon building all of Amazon's cross border offerings, Amazon Global, the Amazon import department, Amazon exports, Amazon Global Selling, and Amazon Global FBA. Those are all cross border projects that I built from scratch, from white paper to actual business. I built an $11 billion business in 4 years with Amazon Global. At one point, that the revenue from that little tiny business, now this is way back in like 2009, 2008, was 11%. Believe it or not, I was kind of wild. I don't think we counted books. I didn't count books. But at one point, this business was significant. I had an ad on the Amazon homepage that I hacked, and it ran there at R1 until Jeff Bezos caught it and made me take it down. He was very nice about it. He had a reason. But I was pretty impressed with myself to figure out how to hack the ad system at Amazon and put an ad on the gateway page. Um, so I've done a lot of really cool stuff. I went after Amazon, I went to Nordstrom, where I led a whole supply chain change leadership charge across the organization and helping them embrace technology and the e-commerce way, which is way different than the retail way. I then went on to start my own consulting business, going on 9 years with that, and have worked with Fortune 500s all the way up to, hey, you and me startups. And it's been fantastic ride. The only disappointing thing with that is that so many companies make the same damn mistake, y'all. Get some software, please. Manage your supply chain. It's a real thing. It costs you money. Stop ignoring it. I mean, that's my biggest takeaway from almost 9 years of consulting is this. Respect supply chain. Yeah, it's a real thing. You have to manage the department. You have to actually have a department. You need to have software, and it can't just be dudes out of the warehouse. You need supply chain professionals. That's my big takeaway after 9 years. It's kinda damn sad, to be honest with you. So anyway, so how's it going with the podcast? Like, that's my what, that's my why, that's who I am. So how's it going with the podcast? It's going great. People have come out of the woodwork that are so excited that we're telling these stories about the early day at Amazon. Young leaders are excited to hear a fresh voice that isn't some sort of pat rote answer book, something they heard in grad school bullshit. Professionals who've been in the industry for a long time, even people outside of the supply chain industry, are excited to hear a voice from the trenches, someone who actually did it, who was in there slinging mud every day. They're excited to hear that story. People are responding to the authenticity, the rawness, the messiness of it all. People love it. People want to connect. That's my biggest takeaway and what I've learned, and has what shocked me the most is how much people wanna connect. Not with me, like, this isn't just a, "Hey, they all wanna connect with me." That's what I'm saying. In general, there is this desire for people to connect, and I think coming out of COVID and with influencers and all this fake shit and social media and all the stuff that's happening out there, people are hungry for connection, and so that has been the feedback that has surprised me the most, is how positive people have been about the authenticity and what I'm bringing to the table, because it's real. I did it. I built it. Not only have I did it, built it, I've burned it down and built it again over and over again, and burned it down again and burned it down again and burned it down again for multiple companies. It's the constant evolution of learning and becoming better every day is what drives me. So the podcast is going really well. I don't know where it's going to go. We're going to go to 100 is what we're going to do. So we got 50 more, and then we're going to reevaluate, because all of this was also part of my practice of letting go. This podcast is an actual daily practice of me letting go. And you know what? I just realized that myself when I just said it. So I'm going to say it again because I'm getting a little verklempt here, a little emotional about it. This is my daily practice in letting go. And I'm inviting you to join me on a daily practice of letting go. Whatever that means to you. Like, that doesn't mean hair and makeup to everybody. There's a whole variety of things that I'm letting go. I let stuff go. Like, I'm not stressed about what the caption says all the time. Like, it needs to be accurate, but my captions are intended to attract attention. They're not OP1 documents. A little mistake here or there is human. A little grammar because of the translation. All right. I'm all right with that. It's all part of my daily practice of letting go. And it's kind of wild that I just realized that I chose to do that through a podcast in kind of a public way. And that's a little weird. But now that we're here, join me. I'm kind of stuck on that. I'm sorry. I just realized it. So we're going to 100. We're going to go to 100 and we're going to see what happens. I have had a lot of guests. The feedback has been really good from guests. My big mistake is letting guests edit their stuff. We're not doing that anymore. You're going to have to trust. Because all the edits have been like immaterial, except for one name I spelled wrong, and I'm sorry about that. And that is real, and I did fix it. But, part of letting go is that this is what this is about, is letting go. And letting things be real, and letting things be broken. There's this whole concept of wabi-sabi, which is a Japanese philosophy around appreciating the imperfections, appreciating the brokenness of something. And that when something isn't perfect, it's almost art in itself. It almost becomes a form in itself. And so I've really been working on this concept of accepting wabi-sabi. And this podcast is a lot about and reflects that wabi-sabi philosophy. Also reflects, I talked about, the courage to be disliked, which is another Zen philosophy about authenticity. So, some guests are, a little bit uncomfortable, but that is the intent of the podcast, is to be a little bit uncomfortable, to be vulnerable, to put it out there. Because here's the truth. If you want a podcast that's well edited, well filtered, well curated, has, some custom logo in the background and a cute studio and all that shit, there are dozens out them specifically on supply chain. You can on supply chain, on leadership, on life, you can find those. You can get those. There's hundreds, thousands of them out there of people who did makeup and are using filters and all of this other stuff, and it's beautiful. Like, I listen to them, I think they're kind of cool. They're very well edited. There's a lot of work that goes into the editing of those podcasts. Please, if that is what you want, there's some great ones out there. Please go listen to those. I intentionally didn't do that because there are so many out there, and there are very few bringing to you an unfiltered and raw voice about supply chain leadership in life, who are hanging it all out there and telling you about their fuck ups. And God bless, I've had many. So, if I look back and I'm like, oh, if I had learned just that one lesson 10 years earlier, my life may have been different, but I didn't. It's okay. So that's what's going on with the podcast. That's what it is. And it's working. And the last thing I want to say about 50, halfway there, I could not have done it without the audience and without the guests and without the people who threw themselves behind me to move this forward. I was shocking. Again, another thing that really shocked me was the number of people who came out of the woodwork and backed me and said, "We want to help. How can I help? What can I do? Who can I introduce you to? What do we need to do? How can I help? How can I help? How can I help?" And that was probably one of the most rewarding things and humbling things that happened out of this podcast, was the amount of people who wanted to help. And that's very moving. And thank you. Thanks. So, I've worked myself up, and it really means a lot for all the people who jumped in. And I didn't really think I was gonna make it past 1 month, to be totally honest with you. And, someday we'll laugh about this. I actually paid my production team, by the week for the first month because I wasn't sure, and I didn't wanna put out all that money and out the gate. So I paid them by the week for 4 weeks, and now we're at 50. So, thank you, all of you, everyone, even the haters, because, some of you had some valid things to say, and I appreciate it. Most of you are full of shit, and you know what you can go do with yourselves. But there's more coming. There's another 50. Thank you. Thank you. We'll talk tomorrow.